Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Speaking Sessions podcast. I've got Annie Lightman here. She is an emotional healing life coach at Awesome People Group and has been a life coach for 20 years. She has coordinated and organized events for fundraisers, team building, and trainings for small and medium-sized businesses. Really excited to bring Annie on today as she's going to help us understand more about how to create events. But before we get into the podcast, Annie, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself so the audience can get to know you?
Okay, so I've been a life coach for the past 98, which is so over 20 years actually.
Okay.
And it all started, by the way, this is a funny thing that I think most coaches start as fitness coaches because I used to be a fitness coach as well. Well, at
Oh,
that
wow.
time we called it aerobics and like steps.
Uh,
So yeah. So
that's funny.
and I had like the same experience like you told me
Hmm.
earlier about like helping people, and
Hmm.
then thinking about like, okay, so I'm actually helping people more than just getting fit. I'm actually helping them with their issues, with their emotions and other, because people
Yeah.
come to you and they talk to you and you figure out, okay, so I'm really good at this and I'm really helping and I can
Mm.
do more. So this is how kind of like the way that it all started, although not right away, because I right after being a fitness coach, I actually became a teacher.
Hmm.
So I taught kids. I worked with kids in elementary school, high school, and then I was actually invited to work at a college and to work with students at different universities around the world. So that was awesome experience. And from then, it was always like business coaching, emotional healing, and
Hmm.
just working with people who want to develop themselves. And I really enjoy it.
Okay, wow, that's pretty cool that we both kind of had that background where we did fitness coaching to start out and then switched over to something different because we wanted to be able to help people more. And kind of similar to you, I know I didn't share that when we were talking earlier, but yeah, it's kind of the same thing. I started seeing that I was helping people in other areas as well, but I wanted to really focus on something that I felt could create more impact there. So that's
Right.
pretty ironic that we both had that same or very similar background there.
I actually know a few people who went through the same experience. Like I know at least two people who, like in my area, that also were fitness coaches before they actually decided to be a life coach or a personal coach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's crazy. Yeah, I guess it makes sense. A lot of people, think they start getting into fitness, and that's something they really want to help people out with, and then they find that true passion for them, and so
Yeah.
they make that change.
Because
Yeah.
here's the thing that I realized when I was like working with different people, that they would come to you because they want to be fit or more fit
Hmm.
or whatever. They have the goals, right? But there's the story behind that.
Hmm.
And that's when you realize, okay, I can actually do more, not just get you fit or get you like the business that you want or get you to the reach the goals that you're like striving to achieve. I can actually help you with the back end of like, like software. There's a front
Hmm.
end and then there's like a back end. So
Yeah.
not only what's on the front, what you think that you want, but actually what you also need.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's true. I never thought about it like that, like the software, the front end and back end, but yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And kind of speaking about, I guess I would say really the back end of things, the fear of public speaking. How have you been able to get over that fear of public speaking, be able to talk with people?
I uh I can't really say that I do fear like being on a stage. Although I think when I started teaching and when I started talking to a lot of people, especially universities,
Hmm.
because you will have like a big auditorium and you talk to a lot of students, and it's hard to talk to students like to young adults than anyone else really,
Yeah.
because they can like ask you different questions and they have no fear at all.
Hmm.
um so I guess it was from there, like got over it from like just answering their questions and and doing that a lot, like every day for months and months, over and over again, and you get over it.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. And I couldn't imagine having to talk to a room full of little kids. I think about my daughter once she starts getting to be where she's talking 3 or 4 years old and stuff like that, where she's going to be asking all sorts of questions. And that's just one kid, let alone a room of 20 or 30 kids. And they're all asking very random questions because I think that's the hardest part is they're asking questions that aren't really filtered either. Yeah, they definitely don't have that fear, but then it's just like something completely off topic that really makes no sense. But you do feel like you need to address them because that's children, and if you don't address them properly or answer their question, they
Right.
may get their feelings hurt, and you don't want that.
No.
So trying to find ways to address that. So I could see that. That's definitely a difficult situation to be in for sure. So I do want to shift gears here a little bit. I appreciate you sharing about us and telling us about how you got over that fear of public speaking. But tell us a little bit about event organization. How did you get about organizing events?
Okay. So, about maybe 15 years ago, I started my own business and I needed somebody to work my events for me. So that's how it all
Hmm.
started. So I looked for different people to hire,
Hmm.
like an event planner or event manager. And I realized that by working with somebody, I actually have to do the work, give them the work, and they just do um, like exactly what I wanted, but I still can like manage the whole event from
Hmm.
A to Z. And I realized that it's fun and I like it and I do it really well because I'm really good at organization. Like
Hmm.
I don't know, some people call it OCD because everything has to have its place. I just call it like being organized and things have their place. They have to be there.
Hmm.
um, so yeah, that's how it all started. And and it's still a lot of fun. And then people would see my events and be like, okay, well, that was really cool. How did you do it? Would you help me plan mine and manage it? And that's how it came about.
Oh wow. Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. I feel like that's how a lot of people get into business and start doing things is that
Yeah,
they found their way to it because they found there was that need for it or something that they needed and
yeah,
they just decide, you know what, I'm gonna create a business around it. I'm sure other people need
um,
that. So
yeah,
that's awesome. So you've done fundraising and the team building, and then I know you've done some trainings as well, but I'm sure you've
yes,
also done trainings where you've just or not hosted the event, that you've done the coordination of that event. So how are
yes.
those a lot the same, or is there different
No,
logistics behind all that? Okay.
they're
Uh, uh,
they're, they're different. So planning like a birthday party is one thing. Planning a wedding is a bigger thing,
mhm.
and then planning a conference or a team building event are different because what you need uh, for those different events are different. So what you need for a birthday party is just like, for example, like a small party, you need decorations, you need food, invitations, and mostly that's about it. And then when you talk about wedding, there's a lot more. There's flowers, there's if entertainment, so you need a DJ or something like some people hire DJ for
Mhm.
their birthday, but I'm just saying like the how big the party is, and a wedding
Mhm.
is always more than what a birthday is. And then when you talk about a conference, then you need to hire speakers, you need to find the right vendors. There are different, so there each event is a little bit different than the other. It depends on what you're trying to achieve with this event, what are the
Mhm.
goals, and then you work from there.
Mm. That makes a lot of sense. So let's say we have an event, maybe it's just small, 20 people or less business conference, and then we have a conference that maybe it's let's say 100 people. We'll go not too far apart, but it's still far enough apart that you go from this more intimate setting because there's a few people to something that starts to become less intimate because there's so many people. It's very hard for us to meet all 99 other people in the room there. How does that look like from a logistics perspective, and how would you suggest for people that are trying to create their own events, how they what things should they also, from a logistics perspective, what should they think about, and then also what things should they kind of provide or bring in with that? And let's say it's a full day event as well, just kind of give something very specific and tactical.
So if we have uh, a team building event, um, or like lunch and learn, a
Hmm.
lot of companies now they like to do a lunch and learn, and it's usually 2 to 3 hours.
Okay.
So they do provide lunch because it's called lunch and learn.
Yeah.
And they usually have about 20, maybe at most 50 people.
Hmm.
So the first thing you need to think about is the venue. Where is this going to happen? Some businesses have their own conference room, and depending on how many people they're inviting to this event, if their conference room is big enough, they can just do it there.
Hmm.
Then the next step is, what are they going to do during that event? Do they need to hire, if we're talking about team building, so, or trainings, then you need like a coach, or you need a public speaker, or you need somebody to do the work to,
Hmm.
for the event. If and if we're talking about lunch and learn, well, obviously you need somebody to cater to get that lunch. So those are the main things. Um, if we're talking about, you said like a bigger conference with 200 people or more, again, if we're
Hmm.
talking about a business that's doing this, um, they might not have the auditorium or the place for it. So they'll have to, sometimes what they do is they rent one at a hotel. Usually hotels have those.
Hmm.
Um, or they can look for a venue that fits into their budget, because that's important, how much they want to spend on it. Again, if this is something that the company is offering to its employees, or is it something that they want to have people buy tickets to this event? So a little bit different.
Okay. Okay. So, yeah, if you're doing around lunch, obviously you need lunch. Make sure based on what it is that you're going to provide to have those correct things to provide there. And now let's talk about the marketing a little bit. So that makes sense from a venue perspective, but as far as from a marketing perspective, because most of my audience is going to be small business owners or people that are entrepreneurs in some way, and they're looking at possibly creating their own events. So they're not this big business that could have the 200 people. They're not even a small business, perhaps maybe some of them, but not all of them are going to have even the 20 people. But they want, and they also don't want it to be just their company. So they want to expand to their network, be able to have them come in, and they'll probably bring in a few speakers. Let's say they bring in 5 speakers and they speak themselves to create this event. What are some ways that they could market? And then even if we need to go back to logistics a little bit on this to help out with that too, to get that understanding, what are some ways for them to be able to market, to be able to set up the venue and everything from your perspective?
Okay, so if we're talking about an event where there's public speaking, and you probably, people have to buy tickets to it, right?
Hmm.
Okay, so in this situation, so again, first thing is you need to know where you're going to do it, the venue.
Hmm.
That's number one, and it's really important. Everything else you can change, modify, edit, but like the venue has to be booked first thing,
Yeah. Real
because
quick,
when
let me pause there with the venue. How far in advance do you think that we as well, and I guess really not just the venue, but how far in advance do you think we need to mark it out? Because I know venues oftentimes get booked up pretty far in advance, especially the popular ones. It's probably going to be
yes.
years in advance. But what's kind of that average, if you will, industry average for a typical venue that you need to try and book out? And then how far out do you need to book out your event that you're going to plan as well?
So depending on how big your event is,
Mm-hmm.
at least a month. So you need 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And before you start any marketing, you need to make sure that you have the venue, because you have to put that address on all
Yeah.
your marketing and
Yeah.
promotions. So depending on how big, I think like at least 1 month. So because you need to get the catering, you need to coordinate with other speakers or other
Mm-hmm.
people, vendors who are going to be there. So all this, you need time, and they need time to prepare as well, because not
Mm-hmm.
everybody is ready right off the bat. Like you call them like, hey, I need you next week. Like, next week I'm going to be in Italy. I'm not going to be anywhere around here. So you need that time, and you need to make sure that everybody knows what they're going to do and when
Mm-hmm.
it's going to happen. So at least 4 weeks, depending on how big. Now, if we're talking about something like a like really big, like 200 people or so, then you probably need at least 6 months, at
Okay.
least. Like if, for example, you already know that you're going to have like a summit, public speaking summit, for example,
Mm-hmm.
and you're inviting a lot of like public speakers, and so, and you know you want to do this next year in August, you got to start planning for it like in January, February,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
so that first of all, people already know what they're doing in August, so they have that booked. You have your venue booked, and you don't have to worry about these things. And now
Mm-hmm.
your only worry for all this time is just to promote it enough to all the people on your platform, and people who are not on your platform, to everyone, so that they know about it, so that they could get the ticket and attend.
Yeah.
And that makes it easier for you.
Yeah.
So, and if we're talking about marketing and promoting your event, say again, the same example is in August. So then you start, depending also, do you want to have sponsors for that event, or are you just putting in your money, investing your money in it, or who's going to pay for it, right? So that's also
Mm-hmm.
important. And if you need to find somebody, you have to start doing that like long before the event. Like that's the first thing you want to do after you get the venue.
Mm-hmm.
You start calling people and businesses like, hey, I'm doing this. Would you like to be a part of this? And would we
Mm-hmm.
split the bills or whatever it is? Would you like to be a sponsor? And would you like to have your business um, on the promotions, right? On the website
Mm-hmm.
or wherever people buy the ticket from. And right after that, you start, once you have those people, your sponsors or whoever's paying, or a host in the venue and all that information, now you're ready to put all the information on your promotion. Now you start putting all that information on social media, your platform, and then putting out the tickets on the website and everything, and letting people know that, hey, we have this event and get your ticket now, because you need to book your seat. There's only 200 seats, or how many seats you have.
Mm-hmm.
And email lists, you should already have your own email list. Is there are other public speakers that you're inviting that are going to be at that event, they have their email list as well. They have their platform, be it on Facebook or whatever social media, but they have their own platform that they've been building. They send their invitations as well. So other than that, you could put it like on social media, and you can run ads if you want to. But depending
Mm-hmm.
on how big your platform is, if it's big enough and the other speakers' platform is big enough and they can do the email list, you don't really need the ads.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So picking those speakers that obviously match with whatever message you're trying to give everybody, whatever that
Mhm.
specific detail is on your event, there is obviously important. But so if it's a business conference, you want to have people that are related to business in some way, and maybe more specific to let's just go fitness. We were using that example earlier. So if you're doing a fitness business conference, okay, we're talking about fitness business stuff. We're not going to bring in uh, makeup tutorial people or anything like that. So making sure that those people obviously match that, but then also it's
Well,
important to
you can
know.
actually do a fitness event, like a couple of fitness coaches, and then
Mhm.
say, and hey, if somebody's interested in makeup, we have a bonus for you.
Yeah, yeah, you
That
could.
works.
Yeah, 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 true. But then it's you have to make sure that the people that you're bringing in also have an audience. So that's an
Right.
important thing as well, right? And would you
Yes.
say that maybe let's say, should they all be kind of in the same group together, or should you try and find people that have different audiences or similar audiences? Like, what are your thoughts on that? Similar as in not that they're all kind of fitness people or people that want to do something with fitness, but I mean like they're literally kind of the same literal person. So like I'm part of your audience, but then I'm also part of your friend's audience that's also going to speak on your stage, but then magnify that by 100 or whatever. Do you
Right.
think
So
it should be diverse audiences or similar audiences or?
either way, it would work
Mhm,
because it depends on what your goal is. And so if we go back to what you were saying, we have fitness coach and then we have makeup. And
mhm,
so obviously the makeup person or the person who does the makeup tutorials, for example, has their own audience, right?
mhm,
And then the fitness coach has their own audience, right? But 100% there are people in the fitness world who are also interested in makeup, and vice versa. There are people in the makeup world who are interested
mhm.
in fitness because they both want to look good, right? So the goal
Yeah.
is one. There, I want to look good. That's why I need a fitness coach. I want to look good. That's why I like makeup tutorials, right?
Mhm,
So you
mhm.
put those two together so it works out. So people be like, yeah, I want to do both. I want to do this and I want to do that. So it
Yeah,
works.
yeah, yeah,
And
that makes
and
sense.
and you open up when you already have a platform. So you narrow your niche when you're starting out and you want to build your platform because you want to look for that person that relates with you, right?
Mhm.
That's what we do. And then once you have your platform, you want to get like a bigger platform. And that's why we collaborate with other people, with other professionals who
Mhm,
have already built their platforms. And we leverage that. They use our platform, we use theirs, and that's how we grow together.
mhm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I want to ask another question here. And let's say you don't have the budget, you're probably not going to be able to get a lot of sponsors to be able to really help out. So your budget is very limited, or you have to watch what things that you put into this event. What are some of those, let's say, most important things that we should have outside of the venue? Because that's obviously going to be a big
Go
thing.
virtual.
Go virtual. Okay. Well,
Go
but
virtual.
let's say we've got enough money to be able to do an in-person event because that makes sense. Yeah. If you don't have hardly any money at all, you can't get sponsors. Yeah. Go virtual. That's a great way to start. And it's very cheap, especially in
Yes.
comparison to in person. But let's say we do have enough money to get in a venue maybe that's not super expensive, but then like, lighting, signage, things like that. Do we use something like Eventbrite to be able to do our ticketing processes? What are some of those things that maybe we should pay for, and some things that we can get away from a little bit? And I guess it's similar to like when we were talking on your podcast about how is the message or the delivery of that message more important? So that's kind of where I'm trying to get at with this. And of course, I talk about the message is more important than the delivery itself, although obviously both are. So kind of same thing with
Yeah.
events. The venue is obviously important. Lighting, marketing, all these things are obviously very important. But what are kind of those most important things that we really should make sure we have at a minimum if we are on a limited budget?
So if you are on a limited budget, always try to minimize your costs. Don't get anything that it's not of an actual value, like decorations, for
Hmm.
example.
Okay.
Who cares? Like, okay, so I actually been to a few events where there weren't like many there were just tables, and even the tablecloth were like the dollar,
Hmm.
disposable ones, plastic ones. So it's not
Hmm.
nothing fancy. And when you go in and you see the event like that, and you see the venue is not decorated, and there's no uh like professional lighting and stuff like that, and you think like, hey, this is going to be boring. But as long as the message is great and the delivery
Hmm.
is awesome, then all that decoration and whatever, like the visual is not really as important as
Hmm.
long as you got that. But if you don't have either, that's the problem. right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there are different types of people. There are people who are like, I listen to something and that's how I get like pulled into it,
Hmm.
attracted to it. So, but some people only work with visual, so I have to see something nice. It's like, for example, you get a meal, right? The
Hmm.
first thing you look at is like how it smells, how it looks, or like if it's being cooked, like the sound of like how it's being fried or how it's being grilled.
Hmm.
So there are different things for different people how to look at things. Same things with
Hmm.
anything else, with events as well. Some people will focus only on what your venue is, like, oh, I can't believe you got this venue, you could have gotten a better one. Like, you'll always have people who'll say that, right?
Hmm.
But you always have to think about your message first and your goal. What is your goal, your end goal?
Hmm.
Okay, what is it that you want to get from this event? Is it that you just want to sell tickets? Is it that you want to deliver a message? Is it a fundraising event that you want to raise funds for something in particular? So the goal actually would help you identify what are the things that you really need to
Hmm.
actually make sure that you can achieve it, right?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
So you were asking me there if I'm on a budget. If you're on a budget, I would say if it's very small budget and you can't find sponsors, always start small. Start with doing virtual conference or virtual summit or public speaking, whatever it is. Just do it virtual online, because then you don't have that like a lot of like expenses, and then also you can make your tickets cheaper so that people will be like, okay, so if this is the first time that they go to something like this, or they've only heard of you like a little bit and they don't know much about you, that could be encouraging for a lot of people. For example, now if you do get a venue, don't focus too much on lighting or on decorations. Focus more on how you want to deliver your message, because that's what people are going to be talking about after everything's done.
Hmm. Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I appreciate you sharing that, and I appreciate you sharing all of this information that you've given.
Sure.
I do want to get to our last question here, which I
Okay.
do ask everybody, and that is, if you had one message that you could share for the rest of your life, what would that message be?
um like me personally, I value my peace of mind over anything.
Hmm.
So I'm a happy person. I wake up in the morning happy. And for some people, that's weird, because some people wake up in the morning and they'll be like, don't talk to me unless I have my coffee.
Yeah.
Or I don't have my makeup face yet. Don't talk to me, like
Hmm.
things like that. And I'm like a little bit, actually a lot different than that. So I wake up in the morning, I'm already wearing my smile, I'm already ready to work. Even like I didn't have my coffee this morning. I barely had some water. So and I'm ready to go, and I'm like happy. And it, the reason behind, I really can't tell exactly why, but I know how to maintain that happiness and how
Hmm.
to stay at peace with myself. And it is um by just being myself, valuing myself,
Hmm.
and not giving too much value to what others think I should be doing, or I should be like, or their opinion or their image of me, what they think how
Yeah.
things should be, because for each person is different, and each person are going to talk from their experience, from their um point of view, or things that trigger them or that are important to them. Not necessarily is the same thing that is important to you,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So focus just on things that are important to you, and keep that peace of mind, and try to stay happy, and don't allow other people's ideas of you or image of you change you, or make you feel like I need to make this change to make them happy. No, the only person that you need to make happy is you. And then those who really care about you, they don't care or
Mm,
it don't matter to them, right? It only
yeah.
matters to them that you're happy because they really care about you. And those who don't care about you, they will try to change you.
Mm. So true. So, create your own happiness. Be you and create your own happiness. I like that. It's a great message to share. Annie, I appreciate you coming on and sharing all this knowledge. If people want to get in touch with you, be able to ask you questions, or to just be able to follow you, where's the best place for them to reach out to you?
They could text me, they could go to website awesomepeoplegroup.com, or they could find me on social media at Annie.Lightman.
Okay.
So yeah, pretty accessible.
Awesome. Well, Annie, once again, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you.
You're welcome. Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.